We are giving away all of these 16 prizes here to celebrate the World Championship, including a signed photo from Raymond van Barneveld and Phil Taylor, which includes a match used art. Just head over to our Twitter, link in the description, to see our pinned tweet for full details, and don't forget to comment and subscribe.
Martin Lukeman showed the darting world what he was capable of last year, but has struggled to replicate those heights in 2023. Last year's highlight was undoubtedly his fairy tale run to the German Darts Grand Prix final, though dispatching James Wade and Ross Smith en route to a Grand Prix quarter-final was arguably more impressive on the bare form. Following that up was always going to be tricky, and has so proved the case. Lukeman qualified for less than half the amount of Euro Tours this season and only went beyond round 2 in his final event of the campaign, while his Pro Tour form has been underwhelming as well. In flashes, we have seen the best of Smash, including a 6-4 win over Ryan Searle in that final Euro Tour in October. His card is very safe due to his 2022 exploits, but he's defending significant money next year, so the Watford man knows more will be required in 2024. Lukeman had no issues moving past the first round on debut, but could have a trickier time of things this time around against New Zealander Haupai Puha. Puha's World Series experience and previous Ali Pali visits make him an above-average international qualifier, and I'd anticipate that clash to be no cakewalk for the favourite. If he does progress, though, Damon Hesser awaits in round 2, and the form book suggests that would be where Lukeman exits the 2024 World Championship, though he's not somebody to be overlooked.
Mickey Mansell is 50th in the world rankings, and that's pretty much where he's been for the entirety of his 13-year PDC career. 7 previous appearances at Ali Pali, 0 wins in his first 5 attempts before round 2 exits in the last 2 years. That's the level that we are dealing with. It's well worth watching a Mansell game, though. It'll provide some form of entertainment, whether that be during the walk-on, post-game interview, or some other madness. He is definitely a character. Mansell plays PDC China Premier League winner Zhong Zhao Chen in the opening round, and the Chinese number 1 will be no pushover, make no mistake. Mansell, although he is the 2-11 favourite for that game, can throw in a stinker on any given day. If Mansell does win, as the prices suggest he should, it will be an all-Northern Irish showdown in round 2 with Brendan Dolan. That one would certainly be well worth watching.
Dylan Slevin won his tour card at the start of 2023 and has had quite an impressive year. He's not in danger of losing his tour card with it only being his first year on tour, but including the £7,500 minimum he's going to get for qualifying for the World Championship, he's sitting 79th on the order of merit, earning £42,750. So if he can do that for his second year, then he's looking very, very likely to keep his tour card at the end of next year. So he's not done too bad. He's won a development tour title as well in 2023, and he's also made a semi-final of a Players' Championship event. He is in the same quarter as Michael van Gerwen, and if he can come through his first round match against Florian Hempel, who was a World Championship qualifier a few weeks ago, then he will face Dimitri van den Berg, who not had the best of years himself, but is probably playing a little bit better than what a lot of people give Dimitri credit for.
Scuba Steve Lennon is one of several players that know their fate of their very tour card status rests on how they perform at this year's World Championship. The Irishman, who's now been on the tour for 6 years, may find himself looking for favours from other players should he not piece together a run to at least round 3, which feels unlikely but not impossible. Lennon is a former World Cup of Darts finalist alongside Willie O'Connor in 2019 and has been a rock-solid performer since turning pro. And his ceiling game is fit to compete with anyone. For example, he was invited to the Premier League as a challenger back in 2019 and went 3-0 up on Peter Wright before eventually losing 7-5. However, his sole run beyond the third round of any major came back in 2018, and that performance has eventually caught up with his ranking. He's been playing with visible pressure at recent Pro Tour events, sometimes to his benefit and sometimes to his detriment, but clearly he's aware of the situation. A first-round tie with Owen Bates looks a tricky one, given the challenge to a star that has nothing to lose, quite the opposite to the Irishman. Beyond that, Johnny Clayton would await in round 2, and the Ferret, for all his own inconsistencies this year, would surely have too much for the capable but inconsistent Dubliner. He may find himself going back to Q school this January.
Willie O'Connor is yet another player that at his best can absolutely cause problems for pretty much anyone in the darting world, but lack of consistency is what separates O'Connor coming to the Worlds in round 1 as a non-seed or round 2 as a top 32 seed. Ranked in the 30s for much of the last 5 years, that's where the Irishman again finds himself as we speak. Maybe he will come here with and break into that top 32 next year. He made it to the third round of Ali Pali in both 2019 and 2022 and often gets the crowd on side with his walk-on to the Cranberries' famous Zombie tune. At 1-33, O'Connor is the shortest price favourite of any player competing in round 1 this year. That's because he takes on Indian qualifier Bhav Patel. A game the man that they call the Magpie should clearly be winning before going on to Chris Dobey in round 2. I quite fancy Dobey to go well this year, so round 2 is where the train stops for Willie O'Connor this year.
Shaggy Scott Williams has had a decent couple of years on tour. He did win a Players' Championship event last year, as well as 4 Challenge Tour titles, and this year he reached the semi-final of a European Tour event, the Hungarian Darts Trophy, the penultimate event of the year. He's in no danger of losing his tour card. Provisionally after the World Championship is world number 43, well inside the top 16, and in his first round game he will face Haruki Muramatsu in that third quarter with Michael Van Gerwen, and if he can come through that first round game he will face the number 7th seed Danny Noppert. He didn't win a game last year at the World Championship, and it should be an interesting match. He's always an interesting watch, Scott Williams, as he is a showman. He does like to go unusual ways or no-look 180s, just something to get the crowd going. So whatever happens with Scott Williams, it should be a very interesting watch, and he has got the ability to do some damage there. Dutchman Christine Kist is a former Lakeside champion in 2012 and makes his return to Alexandra Palace. It will be his 5th PDC World Championship, not appearing in the event since 2018, and he's only won 1 game on the Ali Palace stage. Unfortunately, it's not looking good for Christine Kist. He's had a pretty decent year. He's won on the Challenge Tour and he's made a Players' Championship final. However, he is suffering with quite a bad injury at the moment. He played in the Players' Championship finals recently, lost in his first match against Ricardo Pietraszko, averaging just 68. So that injury is really affecting him, and what makes matters worse for him is that he's got a really difficult draw. He's in that stacked second quarter, and he will play Luke Littler, the 16-year-old, on debut in that opening tie. Luke Littler, of course, the World Youth Champion, averaging over 102 in that final against Jan van Veen, and perhaps the hottest prospect maybe that we've ever seen in World Darts when talking about a teenager, even hotter than what Michael Van Gerwen was. Phil Taylor recently said in an interview that he is miles better than what he was when he was 16. So Christian Kist has got it all to do with his injury problems. It is very, very difficult to see him causing any sorts of issues for Luke Littler. But if he has overcome those injuries issues, I'm not sure what the update is on that, then he could give Luke Littler a game. Like I said, he's made a final this year, but it's a horror draw for him. If he can come through in that game somehow, though, he will face the UK Open champion Andrew Goulding in the second round.
Rapid Ricky Evans isn't quite as rapid as what he used to be, but that's probably a good thing because as his throw gets slower, his form sometimes gets better, particularly on the Pro Tour where he's had a productive year this year, 9 daughters and all. The 33-year-old will be making his 9th appearance at Ali Pali and twice made it to round 3 in 2020 and 2021. Although it must be said, his overall ranking is on the slide. He's down to 56 in the world currently, having been as high as 28 in the rankings 5 years ago. That's simply because he hasn't qualified for any of the big tournaments for a handful of years now. The Match Play, the Grand Prix and the Grand Slam, usually the top 32 players get in there, and Ricky simply hasn't made it to those tournaments since around 2020. Ricky Evans takes on African qualifier Simon Adams in round 1, where he's a strong 1-6 betting favourite to progress to round 2. Nathan Aspinall awaits the winner of that one, and Ricky would need to be near his best to trouble the world number 6 Aspinall there. It'll be fun while it lasts, with Evans sure to do something daft along the way.
Cameron Menzies isn't totally assured of retaining his tour card for 2024, but it does look like he will. He is currently 63rd in the Pro Tour Author of Merit, but provisionally after the World Championship He's currently sitting at 54, so unless a really bad run of results happen, he should be fine in that regard. He's been drawn in the same half of the draw as his girlfriend Fallon Sherrick, but in a different quarter, the fourth quarter, drawing Rusty Jake Rodriguez, a qualifier, in the opening round. And if he can come through that, then he's got Dave Chisnell, which will be an interesting match. Dave Chisnell normally does very, very good here, won 5 titles himself, but very, very poor on the TV. He's made a couple of European Tour events this year, Cameron Menzies. Not really done much in them, only winning 2 games in his 3 European Tour events that he has qualified for. But he is a dangerous player. Last year he did win a game at the World Championship, so he'll be looking to at least better that. Always an interesting watch. Quite an erratic player. I remember last year in the World Championship he gave probably one of the most unwanted hugs to Vincent van der Voort that we've seen, maybe apart from Andrew Gilden and Glenn Durham. But he is a dangerous player. He's a very, very experienced player. He's played a lot in the PDC as well as a lot in the BDO/WDF. So he could be a danger to Dave Chisnell if he can get past his first round game against Rusty Jake Rodriguez.
Lee Evans won his tour card at the start of 2023 and has enjoyed a really productive first year in the professional ranks, which sets him up with a fair chance of defending his status over the upcoming 12 months. A former Challenge Tour regular in his younger years, Evans qualified from Q School by finishing second on the weekly Order of Merit, which is no mean feat, as anybody who follows the Q School action will tell you. His year highlights have included floor wins over some very notable names: Michael Van Gerwen, Ross Smith, Johnny Clayton, Dave Chisnell, Joe Cullen and Peter Wright. He also beat Alan Suter and Wright at the German Darts Grand Prix before exiting to Cullen in round 3, which was the best run of 4 Euro Tours that he qualified for. Clearly, big names don't faze him. That's a good job, because Evans has been handed a very attractive first-round tie with Asian qualifier Sandro Eric Sorsing. And while it's one of the first round's more low-key clashes, the winner will take on World Championship favourite Luke Humphreys in round 2. Should Evans make it through his opener, where he is favourite, he can enjoy a free hit and try to add another darting scalp to his already impressive repertoire.
Madhouse Richie Edhouse is another player who arrives at the World Championships somewhat in danger of losing his PDC Tour card if things don't quite go to plan at Ali Pali. He's ranked 59 in the world currently and needs to make sure he's 64 or above by the time the year ends. Edhouse has a couple of wins to his name at the Worlds in 3 appearances so far, so clearly doesn't mind the pressures of performing on the biggest stage of all. The 40-year-old from Essex faces Dutch-born Swedish representative Jeffrey de Graaf in the opening round, where Edhouse is the 2-5 betting favourite to come out on top. A game where both men should be bang up for winning, as the reward is a second round clash with the often hot but more often than not recently cold Jose de Souza. Edhouse has the talent to scare the likes of Jose on his day, and we've seen him play well in the UK Open and Grand Slam in the last couple of years. He'll need to bring his best form to get a win or two at the Worlds this year.
The machine gun Jermaine Watermina's very experienced player, has been around for a long time now, has Watermina's in no danger of losing his tour card provisionally after the World Championship. He's in 46th place. He is a player who can produce some good quality, but he can be quite an erratic player as well. He had an okay run at the Players' Championship finals. He won 2 games, including an incredible 6-5 victory over Richard Vaintra, where he averaged over a ton, was 5-1 up, and then after multiple match starts, took out a 1-6-4 to win the match. He's qualified for 6 European Tour events this year as well, which is quite a decent return, though I'll be disappointed winning only 1 game, which was at the penultimate European Championship event, the Hungarian Darts Trophy. He's in the 3rd quarter of the draw. The number 1 seed in that draw is Michael Van Gerwen, number 2 in the world, and he will face Fallon Sherrick in the opening round, so we can expect it from the crowd. We've seen what Fallon Sherrick has done before here at the World Championship, and we've seen how the crowd do generally get on the back of her opponents, so we'll be interested to see how he copes with that. If he can overcome Fallon Sherrick, the history maker, then he will face Martin Schindler in the 2nd round.
Dutch-American Jules van Dongen has started to find his groove in recent months, though it may have come just too late for him to maintain his tour card. Currently ranked 76th, JVD will need a deep-walled run here to avoid a trip to Q School, but even if he does have to go down that dreaded route, he'd been doing so in the best form we've seen from him. First, he will enjoy his Ali Pali debut, which was hard-earned after a fine year. Van Dongen made less than 9,000 on his debut year on tour, but has more than quadrupled that in 2023. Not only did he qualify for 3 Euro Tour events, he made 3 last 16 runs on the Pro Tour in September alone. Van Dongen's confidence is clearly higher than it ever has been, and on his day he has some serious scoring power. Australian qualifier Darren Penhall lies in wait in a winnable first-round tie. Penhall featured in the World Series and showed himself to be a capable operator, but in all honesty, Van Dongen could not have asked for much of a kinder draw. Should he progress, Joe Cullen will await in round 2. The rockstar is being written off by many this time around due to some questionable recent form, but even still, he may prove to have just too much experience for JVD. Still, bright things lie in wait.
This is Jamie Hughes' 5th year on the PDC circuit and he's somewhat struggling to kick on. Actually, he looks likely to finish 2023 with his lowest ranking to date and could lose his tour card if he's not careful. Currently ranked 62, he'll want to avoid dropping to 65 or below and losing his tour card altogether. And his round 1 draw against Canadian David Cameron looks pretty tough. He'll certainly need a win there with his tour card in mind, and he's a slight favourite at 8-13 to do so. 4 previous visits to Ali Pali have yielded 4 losses for Hughes, and not exactly against top-class operators either. Zoran Lurchbacher, Adam Hunt, Raymond Smith and Jimi Hendrix all getting the better of Hughes in his past 4 attempts. I'm painting a pretty negative picture for Hughes here, but there are some positives. If he does come through that round 1 tie with Cameron, he plays the beatable Christoph Ratajski in round 2, and beyond that, he might be Johnny Clayton, who's a man out of form himself. There's plenty of water to pass under the bridge between now and Johnny Clayton, but Jamie Hughes should be approaching this tournament with some optimism. And let's not forget, it was only 4 years ago Hughes came to Ali Pali as the 28th seed. So he's got the game in him somewhere, he just needs to find it and he'll need to be at his best, which is something we've not seen for a while. 25-year-old Neil Zonneveld has been a PDC pro since 2019 and is yet to make much of an impact in the ultra-competitive PD circuit, let's be honest. That was until a career best effort in making the last 16 of the Players' Championship finals just last month, beating Daryl Gurney and Johnny Clayton with very decent averages in the early stages of that tournament before being found out over a longer format match in round 3. But still, the Dutchman will come to Ali Pali full of confidence. Zonneveld is yet to win a game at the Worlds in 2 previous attempts, but is expected to do so this time round. The bookies make Zonneveld a 1-3 favourite to beat Darren Webster in round 1, and a win is very much what he needs with the retention of his tour card in mind. Currently ranked 62 and would lose his tour card if ranked below 64 by the end of the year. A round 2 clash with informed Ross Smith awaits in round 2.
Keegan Brown, the Needle, to play with a lot of PDC experience considering he's only 31 years of age. He is a former PDC Youth World Champion as well. He lost his tour card last year after losing to Florian Hempel at the World Championship, but managed to regain it at the 2023 Q School. And he's had an okay year, to be fair. He's qualified for 3 European Tour events and made the quarterfinal of the very first one of the year. He also made the quarterfinal of the World Series of Darts finals this year, beating Geraint Price along the way too. He will face Boris Kratchmar in the first round of the World Championship in that stacked second quarter that we've spoken about a lot. And if he does come through that game, then he's got a pretty decent draw. He'll be facing Dirk van Dijvenbode, the number 12 seed, which normally you'd say is a difficult draw, but Dirk van Dijvenbode has quite a bad shoulder blade injury at the moment. He saw it at the Grand Slam. He's very, very difficult for him to throw, and he even told me at the Grand Slam that he's not going to play through the injury next year with the Players' Championship events. He's just going to do the big TV tournament. So Keegan Brown will be looking at this draw and thinking he can go on a bit of a run here, at least winning 2 games with the draw that he's got. So it'll be interesting to see what the Needle can do.